Ladies and gentlemen, everything starts with believing. Now imagine this. You're a police officer. You're doing your job. You're on the side of the road. And this is something you've done dozens and dozens of times without incident. But today is different. Today there was an incident. And we're going to get into that today. My name's Frank Zaccari. This is Life Altering Events, and this is Near-Death Experiences. All right. As I said, it all starts with believing. Our guests today are Larry Fredrick, who was that police officer on the side of the road, his wife Gail, who lived through the nightmare and the recovery with Larry, and their son Aaron, who will be popping his head in eventually here, who made this a cross-country ride with his dad after this horrific accident. We also have Kate Fry, who was the chief executive officer of America's Blood Centers. And we're going to bring her in a little bit later to talk about what the American Blood Centers does and their role and how important it was in the Fredrick's life. Okay, so as I said, Larry Fredrick is a Marine. There are no retired Marines. If you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. So Larry's a Marine, served in Vietnam. He's a veteran police officer. His near-death story, this story is not just going to touch every emotion, but it's going to grab your emotions and it's going to shake them to the core. Larry, Gail, Kate, Aaron, welcome to Life Altering Events. All right, Larry, let's start with you. Give us a little background so that people know where you grew up, when you went into the military as a Marine during the Vietnam War. And that's always a question when people say, well, why did you do that? But give us your story.
Well, first, I'd like to say thank you to you, Frank, for inviting me on your life-altering experience so I can share it on your show. And also thanks to Lauren Larson, who introduced us.
Yes.
But to start this off, I'd like to, let's ponder your walk on water metaphor just for a second, okay?
Sure.
Which is about each of us being able to walk on water if we know where the rocks are. Absolutely. So you may hear some rocks in this discussion. My first rock is all things are possible if you believe. Mm-hmm. Okay. I've adopted 3 other rocks, which are faith, hope, and charity, and try to live up to those. But even though this is my life, my near-death experience, it's really not about me. It's about all the blood donors, all the blood recipients, and other people who are in need in blood, and all the employees, volunteers at all the blood centers, and all the first responders, doctors, nurses, and all those who put their lives at risk to save others. I'm reaching out with gratitude because that's my way of giving back. Mm-hmm. Sharing a great big thank you to all the blood donors throughout America and the world. And I am alive today because of the kindness of 110 blood donors whom I've never met, and I don't even know their names. Mm-hmm. Frank, now back to your question. I was born and educated in Southern Indiana. Mm-hmm. And Northern California in El Cerrito. After graduating from El Cerrito High School, I wanted to join the Marine Corps because I wanted to be the first in my family to be a Marine. Mm-hmm. Since at that time I was underage, I called my father in Indiana to ask for his permission. And I was kind of surprised. He said yes. Anyway, 17. I'm not sure what that meant, but anyway. So I went to Marine Corps recruiter and enlisted in the Marine Corps. When I graduated from boot camp, I had earned the right to be called a Marine. Then I went to tank training in Del Mar, California. And after I completed that training, I was shipped overseas to Vietnam to the 3rd Marine Division, 3rd Tank Battalion, Charlie Company. Mm-hmm. Now, after safely returning from Vietnam, I was looking for a job, and some beautiful lady, I guess I could say it that way,
Yes.
as soon as I returned home, I registered for school at the local college, where for the first time I saw my beautiful wife, Gail, as she walked into the student union with her student nursing friends. I told a friend that I really wanted to meet her. And she told me, well, you better do something extra special to get her attention. So I climbed up on the chair and stood on the table and waved both arms at her. And she came over. And that started a over 50-year friendship.
Wow.
You had asked about the roles, some of the roles and activities that I had when I was at Oakland PD.
Before you get into Oakland PD, so you get back from Vietnam, you get married to your lovely wife. You got to find a job, right? That's all the veterans. It's difficult to do that. So you applied first to San Francisco, was that right?
Yep, San Francisco PD. They turned me down. Said that was a half inch too short.
Half inch too short. Jeez.
Okay.
It's like the Air Force with their pilots. You're too short. You're too tall. That's wild. So then you find the Oakland position. Go ahead.
Well, I found that through Gail, because she was in the nursing program, and she lived in Oakland at that time. And she said, "Hey, Oakland PD is hiring." That's the story of my life. Gail's always helping me out somewhere. Yeah, exactly. And so I applied. They hired me. And then right before they hired me, Gail and I had gotten married. And then you asked me something about what went on.
Yes, I lived in the Bay Area at that time. I was living in Concord and Pleasant Hill at that time, and I knew of the Oakland PD. And the amazing thing is how many things they do. There were so many things that the Oakland PD did. So share some of the things that you were doing.
Well, when I first started, you start with an FTO, and you start with the field training officer. And when I was with them as what we call an Oakland PD rookie, as a rookie, I was awarded the Department's Medal of Merit for trying to save the life of a drowning victim in Lake Merritt. And then over the next 10 years, here's where you said it gets busy. Over the next 10 years, I was a member of patrol, Spatial Operations Section, SWAT team, solo motorcycles on traffic, hit and run investigator, field training officer, and background investigator. I was part of the Police Olympics as a coordinator, plus I competed and won in 1979 the gold medal in powerlifting. What I didn't realize at the time, I had been training for this accident all through my career and everything to survive. That's what I'm saying.
Wow.
And I was also a member of the board of the Oakland Police Officers Association, and I received their Distinguished Service Award for doing that. So that's just a few.
Wow. Once a hero, always a hero. Marine, police officer, amazing story. Now, when we spoke last time, you mentioned a story about your mom, and I think that's really relevant as we get into the rest of this. Your mom was sick.
Yeah, actually it is, because Frank, as you already know, having done a lot of these kind of programs on life-altering events and near-death experience, there are hidden rocks that happen in our lives prior,
right?
Okay, to whatever event it is. And that sets the stage for a near miracle or a life-saving event. For example, when I was a young boy, my mother became bedsick on Mother's Day with cancer of the pancreas and liver. She lived for only about 3 more months. And during those 3 months, I would rub her feet, talk to her, and listen closely to as she shared her deep belief in God and Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost to me when we were talking.
Mm-hmm.
Now, near the end of her life, she called me into the bedroom and told me about a dream that she had. And she said, I need to share this with you. In her dream, she said she was in a very deep, dark place. yet she could still see a speck of light way up on the mountain. So she started climbing toward that speck of light. She described that she was on a rocky, bumpy trail with a wall of dirt on her left that went straight up and a deep ravine on the right that went straight down into deep darkness. And she said she could feel that darkness weighing her down. And she struggled to climb up, keep going toward the light. And then she finally reached the top of the mountain. And as she struggled to get close to the light, she now could see that speck of light had changed into an open doorway with all this bright light streaming out of it. By this time, she said she was so weak, she could barely stand up. And she could feel the darkness pulling strongly at her, trying to pull her back down. It was then, and this is what I remember the most, it was then that she said that she decided to give her it all, everything she had, to just reach out and touch that light. And as she reached out, suddenly a brilliant white hand appeared and grasped her hand. Instantly, the darkness disappeared, and she felt an overwhelming feeling of love, protection, and safety from that darkness that she had felt. Mm-hmm. In that same instant, though, she knew she was going to die, and she would have to leave me. And she knew she had to go. That's what it was all about.
Right.
And it was then that she looked me in the eyes. Remember, I'm a little boy looking at my mommy, and she made me a promise saying she would do her best to protect me and watch over me if there was any way. Okay. 5 days later, she died in the hospital. And through her death, she taught me by her example what it means to believe in God and Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost, by how she lived and by how she died. Mm-hmm. What an amazing rock for a little boy to stand on.
Absolutely. That's incredible. Now, the reason I wanted you to tell that story is on August 21st, 1982, we had life radically changed. And as I heard that story before, I was thinking, your mother was there. Tell us what happened, Larry.
Well, there were some other rocks in my life that night. Well, I call them guardian angels. You can put any label on them you want.
Absolutely.
And they helped save my life. Okay. Number one, the ride along Doug, who by his quick actions contributed to saving my life. And there was also 2 EMTs, Jim and Steve, in an ambulance that heard the call, even though it was out of their district, and they were at the scene within 2 minutes.
Wow.
There was Kevin. I mean, that's unheard of. Normally it's 30 minutes, it's an hour. Who knows how long it's going to. There was Kevin, the OPD officer who drove the ambulance for the EMTs so they could continue working on me, right, to try to do CPR and stop the bleeding. And there were other backup officers to help clean up the accident scene. But finally, and this, listen carefully to this, Dr. Nyameka Udo from Kenya, the trauma surgeon, whose first name means healing hands, okay? He was also happened to be at the hospital at 11:30 p.m. at night. What a blessing. Those are just some of the rocks.
Absolutely. Now you're on the side of the road. You're going back. You're going home. Your shift is over. You're going back to the station. Car goes speeding by. You go to prevent an accident. Finally get the guy to stop. Go through that a little bit for us.
Yeah. The bottom line is the intro to that. It was 11:30 p.m. and I was struck by a DUI driver. I found out later he's high on PCP and stuff in a 1967 Ford LTD. Now, I wasn't in a car, but I'll go get into that. He was traveling 65 miles an hour. Previously, I'd pulled over that speeding car, and finally, when he finally stopped, I had to do some, I had to hit him with the lights, had to hit him with the siren, had to hit him with the spotlight, and finally he went over suddenly, and I had to park in front of him. As I started toward the safe side of his car, suddenly he starts to get out. So I walk over to his driver's door, close it, and told him not to get out of the car. It's dangerous out here, you know? Well, within a few seconds, I was struck by another speeding car, 65 mile an hour, which the force of that hit flipped me up over the left front fender of the stopped car, right? Into the trunk of the police car, up into the back window, which shattered, and then flipped me over the light bars and 40 feet down the freeway into the bushes. Okay. Now, immediately my ride along, Doug, put out a call, officer needs help at the location we were at. Then he ran over to help me, holding me down, because in Vietnam, if you could get back to your feet, you were going to make it. That's just correct. That was kind of the way it was. And then seeing the blood pouring out of my right leg, he reached into the open wound and pinched off the femoral artery, or pushed on it, or whatever he did to slow down and stop the bleeding. Well, the ambulance and the EMTs were there within 2 minutes. I was at the ER within 6 minutes, and I had already bled out and stopped breathing. And Dr. Udo, along with all the ER staff, was available. That's another huge rock. And lucky for me, and lucky for all of us, you know, the one blood type that is the rarest is the one that's not on the shelf the night when you need it. But lucky for me, there was plenty of A negative blood. They put 54 pints of blood into me, one pint every 10 minutes. And after 9 major surgeries and a total of 110 units of blood, I'm still alive to share my belief there really is a God who blesses us with the ability to reach out and give a hand to those in need of his help. And giving blood, that is the one gift that truly comes from your heart.
Exactly. Now, Gail, you're home. Larry's supposed to be coming off shift here pretty soon. You get a phone call. What happened?
Well, you know, as a wife of a police officer, your husband has a dangerous job. You know that bad things can happen, but you go into denial. If you don't, it would drive you crazy. Mm-hmm. So that night when the phone call came, I was already into, okay. And then it was a friend, and that friend said, Larry, the friend said, they're sending 2 police officers out to pick you up. And because he's been hurt. And I go, well, how has he been hurt? He says, he hesitated like, well, I think it's his legs. And my little voice in mind, he said, I know Larry, that if it was only his legs, he'd be calling me himself. So I knew it was bad. Mm-hmm. Soon after that, 2 police officers came to the door, Highway Patrol and the City of Oakland. And the City of Oakland was a personal friend that I'd worked with once upon a time. Mm-hmm. It's also now not a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I said to him, my father hasn't arrived yet to watch the kids. I can't go right now. And so he turned to the CHP officer and said, you stay with the kids and I'll take her and drive her to Oakland. And the CHP said to me, they're asleep, right? Yes. So Rob puts me in the car. We go code 3 with lights and sirens and everything from Fairfield to Oakland. It's about an hour drive.
Yeah.
And this guy is normally very jovial, kidding, joking, and he didn't say a word to me the whole drive there. So by the time we get to Highland Hospital, the parking lot is packed with police cars. There's news media vans there. And as I get out, the chief of police greets me. Another bad sign.
Yeah.
So they shuffle me into the emergency room, put me in a little room, and there a doctor explains to me the extent of all his injuries and everything. And that he had to be taken to surgery. They couldn't wait for me. So the surgery lasted 8 hours. All night long, we stayed awake, myself, some officers, and Larry's brother and sister-in-law in this little room waiting for the results. So the next morning, they take me up to the ICU. Larry's been transferred there. And a surgeon, not Dr. Udo, but another surgeon, greets me. And he starts talking to me about, because I'm an RN, about all the details. They connected the femoral artery in the vein. They connected this nerve. They they put a rod in his leg, all the things they have to do during the 8 hours to save his life. And then he just kind of pauses. He starts to slowly turn his head away. And he said, it's too bad he probably won't live till tomorrow.
Oh my God.
At that point, I fell apart. long night. So he spends a week in ICU. I've seen him off and on. At first, they didn't want me to go in to see him because they thought it'd be too gory. And I said, well, I'm a nurse. So when they took me in, I mean, I could literally see the bone in his leg. They pointed out blood vessels and nerves and all the, I mean, it was deep. This is his thigh, so it's all the way down to the bone. And, but that was okay. I'm used to believe that you just kind of separate yourself like you do with patients. So I didn't get to actually talk to him until a week later, which coincidentally was our anniversary.
Wow.
But during that week, the police department had put me up in a hotel close by. They brought my mother in so she could stay with me. And somewhere during the week, I was sitting outside the little ICU in the little room they gave me, and there was a drinking fountain. I bent down to get a drink of water, and I fainted, just faded away. And of course, that was some commotion. They laid me down in a bed and everything. So later that night at the hotel room with my mom, we're talking about this. And she, you know, the stress and why it happened. And then my mom said to me, you know, just long stop, Gail, you couldn't possibly be pregnant, could you? And then I go, I start counting, 2, 3. Yeah, I could be pregnant.
You could possibly be pregnant. Wow.
So at that point, I'm thinking, I don't know if my husband's going to have legs. I don't know if he's going to live. And now I don't even know if he's going to be alive to see his future child. Right. It was pretty intense.
Absolutely. And then when you finally did see him, and being an RN probably helped, but he's in traction. He can't move. He can't do anything. What's your thought when you see that? This is your husband. You now have all this information, and there he is.
You know, because of receiving 110 units of blood, it causes major fluid shifts in the body. So he was blown up. I don't know how else to explain it. His whole body was swollen. I didn't even hardly recognize him. That was hard. And he was kind of mumbling, but making not any sense at all. So, you know, there was not much I could do. And they didn't even want me to stay in the room a lot with him because they were doing so much intensive therapy and treatments and stuff like that. So I was allowed to only come in periodically during the course of the day to see them.
That's incredible. What a heartbreaking story at that point. So, Larry, I was a medic in the military, and I saw a lot of things that medics see. And people that I saw that were hurt to the extent that you were injured don't live. It just doesn't happen. So having this great faith, having your mother's words echoing in your mind, when did you believe that you were going to survive?
Well, first I want to show can you see this picture?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there were many injuries, you know, just so your audience can see that it's one thing to describe them, but a picture, bam. It's there.
Absolutely.
I couldn't even look at the pictures for a long time. Anyway, there's too many injuries to talk about. So let's, at what point did I think I was going to survive?
Yeah.
Well, I woke up a week later, She said I was awake, but that's not woke up. Okay. A week later in ICU and wondering how I got there and feeling pain in every inch of my body from my head to my toes. And I still don't remember anything that happened during that week. So I can honestly say that's a blessing in disguise. Okay. Another incredible blessing, which she mentioned, was I woke up on our 13th wedding anniversary. My police buddy, Rob, shows up with flowers and a locket for me to give to Gail. So I said, well, where is she? He said, out in the hallway. So I said, well, tell her to come on in. When she came in, I said, happy anniversary, honey. and gave her the locket and flowers. See, that's
Wow.
a good, that's a, not only a rock, that's a point. Okay.
That's a big point. So Gail, what'd you say?
Anyway, Frank?
My thought, was, but I didn't get him anything. I was so shocked.
That's a classic wife answer. Classic wife answer. So Larry, how'd you respond to that?
Yeah, well, since she brought it up, I was going to let it slide, but since she brought it up, I said, "What? You didn't think I was going to make it?" Anyway, Frank, as you can see, when I woke up,
Ooh.
I knew I was going to survive because of what my father had taught me when I was a young boy, where, when I'd fall down and hurt myself, right? He'd say to me, "Hey, boy, if it ain't your time to go, they can't kill you. If it is your time to go, they can't save you. So get on with your life and quit crying about it."
Mm-hmm.
And he was speaking from his own World War I Army experience in the trenches in France, hit with mustard gas at 23 years old, and he still lived to be 85.
Wow.
See? So when Gail told me she was pregnant with our third child, as I was laying in traction in the orthopedic floor at Merritt Hospital, and when I heard about our soon-to-be baby boy, Aaron, it gave me something to live for, because I wanted to be there for him as he grew up. Now, and another very important rock was having Gail and my children and friends visit me in the hospital during that long 3 months. And that they were very helpful in my recovery and regaining a positive attitude. Yet, I need to say this. I need to give credit to all my children, okay, then and now, because they gave me something to live for, and I have loved watching them growing up. Currently, we have 6 children and 20 grandchildren.
Wow. Well, that's so impressive. That's amazing.
And 2 other rocks that helped me survive is what we now call music therapy and pain management, which is what Gail did for me when she brought my guitar to the hospital room so I could do some finger picking, because that was about the only thing that still worked. Because when I was playing my guitar, it helped me manage the pain I was suffering at that time. And I'm talking about lots of pain, back, legs, hips, and feet. During this time, I learned to endure the pain of debriding. Now, a lot of people don't even know what debriding is, but it was in the right leg every 4 hours for 3 months. Now, there are lots of levels of pain. There's no argument with that. But this pain was unbelievable because it had to heal from the inside out. It was an open wound. They couldn't close it up. It had to heal from inside out. And open wounds heal slowly.
Yeah, they do.
And because the healing scabs had to be rubbed off, which is the debriding part, every 4 hours. And I don't care what kind of drugs they give you. 4 hours later or 3 hours later, the pain's back.
It hurts. Yes.
So then came several years of physical therapy, rehab, going through vocational rehab, going to college, getting my degree in management marketing at Sonoma State University. And then as I became more mobile, slowly more mobile, I started to gain strength physically, emotionally, spiritually. And I found out that the more I helped other people, the less I worried about what was happening to me.
It's absolutely true. That is wonderful. So here you are, not sure you're going to walk again, or you're going to have legs, or live even. And you come up with this idea that I'm going to ride a bike across the country. Okay. Where did that come from?
Well, Aaron was born 7 months after the accident, right? And like I said earlier, he was my motivation to get started on rehab and recovery. And, I hate to say it this way, but Aaron and I kind of learned to walk together.
Together.
Okay. And during those years of rehab, I had a recurring dream or recurring thought, whatever you want to say, that someday Aaron and I would ride across across America on our bicycles, and that I would watch him shake hands with the President of the United States. Well, I never gave up on that dream, even though it took 13 years. It started with having a thought that just wouldn't go away. So listen up, folks. Sometimes there's a thought there that's a good thought. You need to keep it close. And that thought was, I would watch him someday. Okay. And shake hands with the president. Now, Frank, I didn't know how that was going to happen. I'll be upfront about it. I just knew it would happen. I knew it was going to happen. All right. Plus, I wanted to give back to the blood banks because 110 donors gave blood, which saved my life.
Kept you alive, right?
And we have a picture over my shoulder back here. They have a picture of Aaron and I standing together on the Capitol steps in Washington, D.C., just after we finished this long, big ride, right? 13 years later. And that's just to remind me, never give up on your dream. Okay.
Absolutely.
Another amazing rock. So what I'm trying to say to you, Frank, and your viewers, don't ever give up on your dream. Why? Because you can do it. Sometimes you may have to avoid negative people, places, and things, but always stay focused on your dream. Don't let anyone steal your dream. And most importantly, never give it away or give up on it.
That's incredible. So Gail, you now have about 13 years old son.
Yeah.
Your husband, who you watch go through this horrific episode, says to you, I'm going to take our 13-year-old son and ride across the country on a bicycle. All right. What's the mom-wife reaction?
What if it doesn't work? How's he going to get Aaron back home? Is Aaron even going to be able, 13-year-old's attention span is
About that long.
yeah. How's this going to work for several months? And I'm the primary caregiver. How is Larry going to deal with a teenager? There was a lot of questions.
I would bet. Now, Aaron's there with you, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So Aaron, 13 years old. Aaron's going to pop into the screen here. 13 years old. You watched your dad go through all this stuff, and he says, Aaron, we're going to get on a bike. And we're going to ride across the country. What'd you think?
I was in awe. I was like, wow. I was so excited. Now, when I was introduced to it, it was during the planning stage. So I did hold my breath a little bit, waiting for, it all to pan out. But I was extremely excited. And I know there's some negotiating going on with my mother as well.
I can bet.
To make it possible for me to do it. But eventually, obviously, she said yes.
That's incredible. So you take off on this journey, and you're stopping at all these blood banks along the way, right? And raising a massive amount of donations for blood. Now you're 13 years old. You get to the Capitol. You walk in the room. You see the President of the United States. What's your thoughts?
It was amazing. I felt like I was in a movie. And walking into the White House and seeing the Oval Office, sitting on the couches that you see in all these movies and in these pictures, and looking at the President of the United States you see on the news. Me as a 13-year-old, like, is this real? I remember specifically trying to remember everything, looking around, trying to say, okay, can I recall this later in my life? It was an amazing event to spend all that time riding our bike. And when you're riding a bike across the country, you have a lot of time to think about it, right? A lot of hours, pedaling. But by the time we finished, and by the time we ended up at the White House, you have all those memories that you experienced, all the amazing people that you met, and then be able to meet the president in the end and shake his hand. But more importantly, to be able to do that with the family.
Absolutely. What a
awesome.
Thrill that had to be. What a thrill. So Larry, as a dad, what's that like? How long were you on the road? 60 some days? Is that right?
Yeah, it was 4,266 miles. It was 59 days, 60 days. Wow. Okay. And we raised 75,000 units of blood. We were the catalyst for raising 75,000 units of blood. And it was just amazing because there was so much effort put by not only by the ABC National, but the ABC Local, and they work with the ARC too, Red Cross and all that. So there was a lot of blood giving going on during that 2 months.
Right. Now they coordinated this with you to make all these stops along the way at the different blood centers?
Yeah. In fact, we didn't get into, I'll give it to you just short. In 1995, the year before, we had done organized a ability across California, which was a bicycle ride and a blood drive from Eureka down to San Diego, which was dedicated to California officers that were hurt. And so we had some training, and like it wasn't we just went out and jumped on our bikes, you know.
Right.
So and but at that time I was trying to organize the combined nationwide bike ride and stuff. And I wasn't getting much support until I talked to Tom Shallett up in Eureka and Jim McPherson at ABC, who was the CEO at that time. Well, they believed the story and they were all for it. And they said, one question I remember one of them asked me was, "Can you really do this?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, sure, I can do this." And the end result being is I was sure hoping I could do this.
Exactly.
Well, the important thing for me to remember is how everybody worked together. And when we finally get to Kate, but one last thing I want to mention, she's no longer with us, but all the Life Across America marketing, all the daily route organization, the keeping a track of all the blood gathered was handled by an incredible lady named Jennifer Schaffner. She was amazing. She coordinated all the connections and contacts for us to meet the president at the White House in Oval. She gave her everything to make Life Across America a success. And in her memory, I want to thank her because it worked.
Absolutely. I got a question for you here. You get to Washington, D.C., it's you and Aaron. You get another phone call. And the question, the way I understood the story is, Larry, how'd you like to have your whole family here?
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, Gail was very accurate. It took a lot of patience because you don't just pop in and see the president.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. Okay. So we had to wait an additional 3 days. And just when we were about to say, okay, I guess that's not going to happen, right? I get the phone call, and that's what they asked me. He said, "Hey, Larry, would you like to have your whole family come in with you and Aaron?" I said, "Whoa, oh, are you kidding? I'd love that." And they said, "Yeah, good. We'll take a picture." So when the first thing that I saw was the security, that holy smokes, that's all I could say. Anyway, and another rock took place in my life for me. You know, that thought that wouldn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Aaron shake hands with the president, President Clinton. And I can't describe it. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it because, you know, your dreams can and will come true if you don't give up on it.
Absolutely. Now you have a picture over your shoulder there in the White House. Show us that picture and tell us that story.
Let's bring it up so you actually see it.
There it is.
Okay. Now there's another little story there. See the two little girls?
Mm-hmm.
They were jockeying for position. They both wanted to be on, I guess it's on his left.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, Amber won. Okay. So you can see that the president has to grab her and say, "No, you stay right there for the picture."
Right.
So but what a memory.
Yeah,
right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, just like Aaron said, you're trying to remember everything, and then you get over 50, and it's not as easy.
Yeah, tell me. So, Gail, you're still there. You get to the White House. Now, did they fly you out to come for this?
No, actually, we had to get the bikes back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a little Nissan truck and with an overhead six-pack camper, and I pulled a U-Haul behind it with the rest of the family, and we drove across the United States to Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Now, that was a lot of adventures. The car broke down midway. We blew a valve, and I have to give a lot of credit to this little town in Missouri that incredibly, they heard the story that I was on my way to meet up with my husband. They repaired the car. They found us a hotel because it was going to take overnight. They were amazing.
Absolutely. What a
Yeah.
wonderful
But
story.
yeah.
So you're at the White House with your children, okay?
Mhm, mhm.
What's that emotion for a mom, for a wife?
It was incredible. We had one of our sons, who was an adult, couldn't stay the extra 3 days, so he had to leave early. He didn't make the picture. That to me was devastating.
Mm-hmm.
But having the rest of them there, it just was scary. I thought, are they going to behave? I mean, they were telling me all the rules. Don't have your kids do this. Don't touch that. It was like, okay, I want to see the president, but half the time I'm concentrating on corralling kids.
Right, right. Don't go there. Don't touch this. That's
Yeah.
that's why. And at that age, they're going to do what they're going to do, right?
Mhm. But the
It's
thing
just-
they enjoyed the most, before we actually walked into the Oval Office, they put us into the press secretary's office, the national press secretary, and they fed them treats. That made their day.
They're happy. We got the treats. Wow. So let me bring Kate in. Kate Fry. Kate is the Chief Executive Officer of America's Blood Centers. Now, Kate, to see a very special woman, she is a recognized leader in healthcare association management advocacy. Okay. Now, Kate, a lot of what you do is advocate on behalf of the blood centers, and you have to deal with legislators and regulators, and they're usually not the easiest people to deal with. How do you do that?
Well, thanks, Frank and Gail and Larry and Aaron, for sharing your incredible story. I'll say that we actually have an award at our association named after Larry. It's the Larry Fredrick Award that goes to somebody around the country every year that's a volunteer blood advocate. And we just couldn't be a better award, could go to better people, but it all started with Larry. So incredible
That's wonderful.
story. So I would say, the great thing about blood donation is that it's truly a nonpartisan issue. I think every member of Congress, every regulator understands the importance of a ready and safe blood supply. And so we have a lot of support for the need for blood donors and blood donations.
Mm-hmm. So what is we all should be giving blood, but we don't. And I think I'm guessing that COVID made it a lot more difficult. So what is it that you need, like on a daily basis?
Sure. So less than 5% of Americans these days actually give blood even one time per year. That's a percentage that keeps ticking down year after year. And it's a big concern because we do need more than 30,000 units of blood to be collected every day to make sure that there's enough blood on the shelf for whoever might need it. So 1 in 7 patients that walks into a hospital has a need for the ready blood supply that our members provide.
Wow. Now you're doing a promotion with, I think it's the federal legislator, the federal offices. Tell us about that.
Sure. Something we're working on right now with Congress and with the administration is helping to promote a public awareness campaign, a national public awareness campaign about the need for blood, specifically to help engage our younger generations in donating blood and create a more diverse donor pool. And so we're hoping to get that launched this year. It was included in some legislation last year. And so now we're starting to work on the finer touches of it.
That's incredible. A lot of it's just is education, because the more I have never met anybody in my life who said this is not a good thing ever. Mm-hmm. And in the old days, pre-COVID, when the blood trucks would pull up to the corporate centers and the schools and all that, a number of people that I've dealt with would all go out and do it. Okay, now they have to get in a car and go someplace. Like I live in San Diego Blood Center, not an easy thing to get to. Okay, so this education program that you're having to just make people aware again. This is important, and you don't think about blood until you need it. Is that right?
Unfortunately, I think that is true, right? But almost everybody knows somebody who has needed blood and needed, that safe blood unit to already be on the shelf the days before the accident happens, or the disease needs to be treated or whatever it is. I mean, blood goes to so many different causes, whether it be maternal care, cancer, leukemia, lymphoma, sickle cell disease, obviously trauma cases like Larry. But it's an incredibly important, probably one of the most used products in the hospital. Yet you're right, people don't think about it until it hits home.
Absolutely. And stories like Larry, Dean Eller, we spoke about of last time we met, who have these incredible stories. Is this going to be used in that campaign?
The stories, absolutely. I mean, the stories are at the heart of blood donation. It's truly one of the most incredible aspects, I think, of our country and our society, is the fact that we have individuals, these volunteers, who give of them literally a piece of themselves for somebody that they'll never meet. I mean, what an incredible story of sacrifice and giving that is, that each blood donor chooses to make every time they go into a blood center and roll up their sleeves. I mean, they're truly giving the gift of life to another person. And I mean, those stories are incredible. We have those stories come through every day of somebody that has chosen to donate, and then somebody whose life has been saved as a result. And so we have to keep promoting these kind of things. They're far better than any statistic I could certainly give you.
Absolutely. I met Dean Eller a while back, and his story was his daughter, Jenny. And one thing that he said, and I think Larry has iterated to it already, it doesn't matter if the blood that you give keeps them alive for an hour. That's another hour they got to spend with their loved ones. And in Larry's case, it saved his life, and he's here today with us. That's incredible.
So incredible.
Well, go ahead, Kate.
I was just saying, it really is incredible. Like you said, Larry, you're incredible. Gail, you're incredible. Thank you for all you do to help promote blood donation. We can't thank you enough.
Wow. We're just about out of time here. So Larry, with all that you and your family have been through and all the things that you have accomplished, what last thoughts do you want to leave with the viewers around the world?
Okay, Frank, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Well, because my accident literally changed my life, I would like to share my mission statement with you. To give more than I receive, to remind others to reach out to those in need, and to give a message of hope that there really is a God who blesses us with the ability to help others that are in need. Now, how did I learn what my mission was? Well, I first had to believe I would walk again before I could even see it happen physically. I first had to believe in the saving power of Jesus Christ before miracles happened and peace entered my heart. And I first had to believe I could help others before I could help myself. Sometimes that's hard to hang on to. All right. And the big rock for me is God's gift to us is our life. Our gift to him is what we do with our life. And I want to finish with one final thought about Dr. Udo. It took me 13 years to find Dr. Udo after the accident and stuff. But finally, I found him, and I was in the process of thanking him for saving my life. And this is what he said to me. He said, "Hey, Larry, yes, I put you back together. Yes, I'm a very good trauma surgeon. That's what I do. But it's not about me. It's about you. The decision to live or die was made by you on the freeway long before I saw you in ER or on the operating table. If you had made the decision to live, then all I'm doing is to help you accomplish that decision. If you made the decision to die, then there's nothing I can do that will make a difference." And I want to say thank you to Dr. Udo for being such a humble and gracious man who just happens to be a trauma surgeon. Mm-hmm. And my final thought, and the following rock, which I really stand on: prayers of gratitude bring promised blessings, whether we know it or not. Shared with love, goodness, and a prayer of gratitude for all the blood donors. Thanks, Frank.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we're just about out of time. I want to thank Larry and Gail and Aaron and Kate. This is an incredible story, and this is something that we all have to get focused on. We need to donate blood. It's critical. It has to happen. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you heard here, no matter what life throws at you, and it threw a lot at these people here, please do three things. Look up, get up, never, ever give up. Keep moving forward, and better times and better people, like the 4 people you had on this show today, will come into your life, and they will make a difference. If you want to learn more about Larry, you can contact him directly through his website, I believe, or you can contact me, and I will make sure it gets to him and to Kate over at the ABC. You can see this show on Roku TV or on my YouTube channel, Frank Zaccari. And I will also send a link to Kate and to Larry so that they can post it in all the places that they put their information out. Okay, if you use the YouTube page, please subscribe. Now, let me leave you with this, as you've heard multiple times throughout the course of this conversation. None of us are in this alone. And the secret to walking on water is to know where the rocks are. And today, Larry and Gail and Aaron and Kate showed us where a lot of those rocks are. Join us again next week. We get into another life-altering event. Thank you all.